Hello and welcome to Thursday night's Cable Today. I'm Debbie Flint.
And I'm Marcus Churchill.
We're your local programme with news, views and information twice a night on Channel 15 for Cable Today's area, which is Croydon, Merton, Sutton, Kingston and Richmond.
After the news in Crime Spot, we'll be talking about ever-increasing violence against our local police officers.
And on tonight's programme we bring you part 3 of my special report about the record-breaking Teddy Bears picnic at Selsdon Park Hotel in Croydon on Sunday. Today we meet the valuer from Christie's, the celebrity bears and an ancient stiff called Mr Ted. Plus we focus on National Condom Week, how widespread is AIDS locally and why our Cable Today area school children are being taught the importance of safe sex.
All that coming up. First, tonight's headlines.
Welcome back to Cable Today, your very own local programme for Croydon, Merton, Sutton, Kingston and Richmond. And now, as promised, we focus on National Condom Week, which is coming towards its end. But how successful has it been? For the first time since the birth of the pill, the condom is the most popular method of contraception. 24% of couples use it, compared with 22% who use the pill. So why do we now need National Condom Week? Here to discuss it with me in the studio are Carol Bilney. First of all, welcome, Carol. Sexual health advisor from St Helier for Merton and Sutton, and Martin Weaver, Sexual Health Coordinator for Kingston and Richmond Health Authority. Thanks very much for joining us. Carol, first of all, why do we need National Condom Week? First of all, the obvious question, what's your answer?
My answer is that it does protect against all infections, not just HIV. It protects against pregnancy, so a lot of people do use condoms in addition to the pill. But we do need to make people aware that they are there, they are available and they are effective. We need to remind people continuously.
Why?
Because they forget, because they are important, and because when they travel, this is an easily transported form of protection for them. And so it's a constant reminder to people. People hear about infections the whole time. They need to be reminded how they can protect themselves against them. Sure,
now, in your experience, Martin, because you're obviously much more of a coordinator, sorting out budgets of how much various places can spend on free condoms. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. But what is your experience of people's resistance against using condoms?
In Kingston and Richmond anyway, I think people feel that it's not happening locally, it's happening outside, it's happening in central London or to other people. And part of my role is to raise the awareness of the general population, not to scare people, not to scare them off sex, because sex is intimate and important for all of us, but to make sure the sex they have is safe, or as safe as it can be. And obviously National Condom Week is one way of just raising the issue, of saying, look, it hasn't gone away, and actually it's in Kingston and Richmond, and you need to be aware. Don't be scared, just take precautions.
And how widespread is it locally? AIDS we're talking about now, of course.
In last year, there were 214 people living in Kingston and Richmond with HIV, of whom 78 had AIDS. Now, those are the people that we know about. And there's probably a lot more people who are going elsewhere for services that we don't know about. Also, we're looking at an ill population, largely. People are coming forward when they're concerned or when they show symptoms, which means there's probably a lot more people out there with HIV who don't know it, possibly don't even need to know it, in the sense that if it's 10 to 20 years before you show symptoms, you can protect yourself before then. Maybe some people will never show symptoms. Maybe people who are positive will never go on to develop AIDS. But it's quite possible that they will actually spread the virus. So when people are having sex, they need to know how to protect themselves and have the confidence to say, we need to use condoms, or I don't want to have intercourse at all. I want to do something else.
Yes. Now, 10 to 20 years ago, of course, we wouldn't have even been mentioning the word condom in public, let alone debating it on television. But Carol, it's not only against AIDS that condoms are a good protection.
Absolutely, they're a good protection, obviously, for the cervix, for the female, protecting the cervical tissues. They protect against pregnancy, but they also protect against the common sexually transmitted diseases.
Do we still see many of those nowadays?
There are plenty of sexually transmitted diseases around. They are very easily transmitted, much more so than HIV. And the problem with them is that many people have no signs and symptoms, so that they could actually pass on an infection like chlamydia or gonorrhea without knowing they have it.
And one of these,
I was going to say, the important thing, of course, about condoms, as you were saying, is that sex should be safer, but it should also be enjoyable, and they can be fun. Right, there's different colours, there's different flavours, there's different shapes, but let's not take the enjoyment aspect out, particularly when we're talking about young people. We don't want to frighten people, and it's a fine line between informing and frightening them.
Now, talking about young people, obviously you are an education advisor yourself.
Yes, I work in a medical GU department, a Department of Sexual Health at a local hospital, St Helier, but we do go into schools and work with young people of 13 to 14.
What reactions do you get?
They're wonderful. They're wonderful. They're enthusiastic. They don't have the bias that older people have. I'm sure they could teach me a thing or two, and frequently do. They teach their teachers a thing or two sometimes, and we found that the teachers and the governors and the faculty generally have been very enthusiastic.
Now, obviously, it's a subject which is widely debated nowadays. More than 9,000 people, the figures say, have developed AIDS since, when is it, since 1982?
That's right, it's a cumulative figure.
With 75% of new cases being amongst heterosexual couples. We're focusing, obviously, this year with National Condom Week on the younger population. How much do they feel they're actually at risk?
I think it varies depending on where people are. For instance, in Kingston and Richmond, where there's been no clinic like Carol's one until recently, the local awareness is actually quite low. But if you go to places more like in central London, then people are actually quite well aware of what's going on. But I think the issue is, you can put condoms in front of people. That's one issue. But the major one is, are they going to use them when it comes to having sex? And the work that's been done in schools across the country, really, is giving people the confidence to actually say, I want to use these things. Buying them is okay. But when it comes to the act of having penetration, you want to be able to put them on. And that goes for girls as well as boys, perhaps more so because the boys and men have more of the power in this kind of relationship. And they're the ones that can often block the use of condoms or enforce the non-use of condoms.
Female condoms
Absolutely.
as well.
I was going to say, to actually encourage the fact that you're both using them.
Yeah.
I mean, the man's got something to hang the condom on, but you're both using them. And that is important, that we think about, we want to protect each other. And that's what we try and engender in the young people, is to think of protecting each other. Not he uses the condom, but we're protecting each other. To negotiate, which is very difficult in terms of, as you say, with young people, negotiating your first sexual experience is difficult anyway. And to actually negotiate, perhaps protecting yourself as well, you're greatly at risk at that time.
Female condoms, how do they work? How popular are they, Carol?
They're a little bit noisy, most people say. They squelch a bit, but they're fun. And as I say, sex should be fun, or sexual encounters should be fun.
More expensive?
They are more expensive,
How much
yes.
do they cost?
They're about £1 each, depending how many you buy at a time. They are free, like all condoms, in GU clinics and family planning clinics, but they are... I think there's probably a little more resistance. I don't know if you've found that, simply because they are larger and they do take a bit more experience in actually inserting them. I think that's the difficulty.
Now, say a couple's been using condoms for years and years and years. When is it safe to stop using them? We were talking about this earlier on.
I think it's a case of working out what their likely risk of infection is. And if they
How many partners they've had in the past?
Well, that's part of it, but also what they've done with those partners, the activities they've taken part in. Because you could have safer sex with many partners and be free from HIV. You could have 1 or 2 sexual partners and have unprotected intercourse and pick up the virus. So there's no simple answer to your question, but in talking with the couple or any people, it's really working out what's the likely risk of them actually contracting the virus. Then you go on to discussing, well, would an HIV test be useful or not? And what information will that give you? If you have a couple who want the test and they have a negative test on, say, day 1, and then 6 or 9 months later they have another negative test, the chances are likely that they haven't picked up the virus. So then a family is no problem at all.
It's a very common scenario for people to come along as a couple, as one of my clients said, to wipe the slate clean. And they've entered a relationship, they've used condoms, they want to give up using them because there's protection against pregnancy with a pill or whatever, and they decide that they want to both have a test done. And that's one of the reasons that I'm in post, is to counsel people before the test and dealing with the possible consequences of the result. But it does actually give people the opportunity to think about their relationship, because relationships are individual, and the point at which a couple give up using condoms is up to them, because relationships are based on trust.
Absolutely. This is the 7th National Condom Week. How many more will we have to have before the message gets out? Very briefly.
I think it'll become part of the national culture. It's something that's part of the education system, part of advertising, so it'll change. Hopefully it'll never go away.
Exactly.
Yes,
Well, thanks very much. And once again, condoms are free, as is other protection from
Yes,
local
indeed.
family planning clinics. How would you make an
And
appointment?
from
Just
medical
ring up?
GU departments.
Just phone up. They're in the phone book. We have leaflets in Kingston and Richmond telling you where all the services are, and you can write to the health authority to get copies of that.
Absolutely, and the thing about medical GU departments is that they are self-referral. You don't need a doctor's
And they're
letter.
confidential.
They are free,
Great.
and the service is totally
So
confidential.
take advantage of them. Lovely. Thank you very much. That's Carol Bilney from Merton and Sutton, and Martin Weaver from the Kingston and Richmond Health
Thanks, Debbie.
Authority. Thanks for being with us in National Condom Week. Tomorrow night it's Palettes Chat Back with Gary O'Reilly and Pete King from me. Bye-bye.